Shipbreaker is a book that takes place in a post-oil global warming future where resources have been used up and most people are busy picking over the bones of the last parts of what they call the accelerated age. When I look at photos of Bangladesh and look at photos of shipbreaking operations, one of the things that stands out to me is that this is an economy that's functioning on far less than what we have. And so it's interesting to transpose that experience, the Bangladeshi shipbreaking experience, into a space where we think of as having prosperity like the United States, and use that to ask some questions about where we're headed. The story follows a couple of different characters who are child laborers on a shipbreaking operation, tearing apart old oil tankers, freighters, everything that used to be part of the global economy. This work is dirty, it's dangerous, and it's got a short lifespan. There's this one boy named Neiler, and his father is an abusive drunk, and his life is hell. And in contrast to that life, out on the water, you can see new high-technology clipper ships going by. They've got hydrofoils and high-altitude parasails, and they're fast, and they're sleek, and they're beautiful, and they're just out beyond his reach. And so this is a story about Neiler trying to find a way from his dirty, broken world out to something better and brighter. There's a bunch of different things that are in play for me here. I wanted to write an adventure story that touched on sustainability issues, like what is our world going to look like when we run out of cheap energy, and also to play around with some of the ideas of technologies that I think are really cool and might actually point the direction toward a more sustainable world than the one we're on right now. For me, the most interesting thing about science fiction is the process of extrapolation. Looking at something that I see here in the present and then asking the question, well, what happens if we take this out into the future? What happens, what does the world look like in 5 years if this goes on, in 10 years, in 100 years? And so when I wrote Shipbreaker, one of the things that I was interested in was the idea that Neiler is living inside of the consequences of our present. And so I wanted to spin out that world. What does a global warming world look like? What does a post-oil world look like? What does a world look like where we used our resources in the most frivolous and stupid ways possible, and what's left to pick over at the end? I want to have a story not only entertain, but also inform, and also explain. And those things are key to me in almost all of the writing that I do these days. And that's a lot of the reason why I write about environmental and sustainability issues now. If there's a takeaway from Shipbreaker where the story takes place in a world where the adults made all the bad decisions all along the way, the key message really is that you have to sort of look to yourself and ask yourself what is right, moral, and forward thinking, because following the paths of your parents isn't necessarily the path to follow.